All right. Hey, Will, glad to have you on again.
Thanks for having me.
Uh, yeah, appreciate. Thank you for coming on the show. So today we're going to talk about barbells and barbell training and all things barbells. And so before we get started, for those of you who may not know who you are, do you want to introduce yourself and give a quick overview of your background?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, hi. So I've been in the industry, the fitness industry. I've been in the fitness world for over 13 years now, multiple certifications and all that other stuff. I was a strength coach for our local high school baseball team
Hmm.
who wins city and national championships. That's what we do down here in Los Angeles, California. I really believe in the big three power lifts,
Yep.
the deadlift, bench, and squat.
Yep.
The tremendous benefits to those. I know people have theories about deadlifts, but I love them.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing more fun than picking up 5,000 pounds off the
Yeah.
floor. So, yeah, I've been doing it for years. I incorporated everything in our gym at Built Strong Strength Club here in Chatsworth. I do it with all my clients. And I scale everything that I need to scale, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I do it with all my clients. I'm a big believer in all those three lifts.
Yeah. Excellent. Because we're going to focus on the bench, squat, and deadlift because those are three extremely important lists that people should be doing. So let's dive in and talk about those three. So bench, squat, deadlift, also obviously very very popular exercises. Why are those so important? Why are bench, squat, and deadlifts so important to incorporate into someone's training?
The most functional,
Mhm.
you can make an argument about the bench that it's not the most functional. There's not a lot of times you'll
Yeah.
be lying on your back that you got to push a truck off your chest.
Right. Right.
But we don't kill the sacred cow.
Yeah.
You know, if you're an offensive lineman, I'll make an argument for
Mhm.
for a bench that you need that extra
Right.
strength. I'll
Yeah.
make that
Right.
argument.
Yeah.
But I think they're the most functional. The posterior training with the deadlift,
Mhm.
I think, is really, really important. I think the squat is obvious. We
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
everything. Sit down and get a chair is a squat. So the
Oh yeah.
squat is obvious, but I think they're the most functional in our everyday world and how we do everything. We're always
Right.
picking something up off the floor.
Hmm.
We're always pushing something. We're always doing
Hmm.
something along that line. So, being the human beings that we are, we need a lot of posterior training. Or I believe I'm a 2-to-1 ratio, posterior to anterior. So I train all my people backside, and that's with pull ups and everything. Uh, Two back movements to one front movement.
Yeah. Let's uh, take a quick segue. Posterior training. What? So maybe break that down when you talk about posterior training and focusing on posterior type of movements. What is that for
Mm-hmm.
people that may not know?
Um,
What
any
does that
back
mean?
movement, or
Mhm.
any pull up, any row, any rowing movement. A lot of us are really weak in the rhomboids.
Mhm.
That's that muscle in between the shoulder blades for people
Yep.
who don't know, right? So really weak in there. We're really weak in our lats.
Mhm.
And we're really weak in our glutes.
Oh yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I joke that you can never have too much glute training,
Hmm.
especially glute med. Like
Yeah.
nobody does a lot of glute med work,
Yeah.
but I think anything in the backside,
Hamstrings. Yeah. Yeah.
hamstrings, just by nature of us being human beings and the way we move, we're very,
Hmm.
very quad dominant. Very,
Right.
very quad
Right.
dominant.
Right.
If you have problems with ankle stability, we can talk about calves.
Hmm.
If you're doing the calf work, if you're going for aesthetics, then you need to have. If you're in a competition,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, fitness competition, you need calves.
Yeah.
But like posture, anything backside, any rowing motion, any pulling motion, any squatting motion, any hip hinge motion. I'm a 2-to-1 ratio type of guy
Hmm.
because just don't wish for lighter weights, wish for a stronger back.
Yeah. Yeah. What does that 2-to-1 ratio mean for people?
So for every pushing motion, I do two pulling motions or squatting
Okay. Okay.
motions.
Yep.
So if I'm doing a bench press, I'm being sure to add two type of rowing motions into there, or pulling motion.
Mhm.
So yeah, anything I do in the front, I do two in the back.
Okay. Yep. Makes
That would
sense.
include triceps. If I'm doing a set of curls,
Yep.
I'll throw extra triceps in
Yeah.
there. The way I program every training session, we're doing at least one pulling motion. So I end up, you know, at the end of the week,
Hmm.
doing more pulling,
Yep.
more back motion, back stuff, posterior training than I do front training.
Yep. Yeah. And so let's get back to why bench, squat, and deadlift are so key. So I think you brought up really good points about how they're really functional movements. So we do a lot of those movements in our day to day life, right? You brought up
Mhm.
great examples. We pick stuff up off the floor. We get up and sit down, all the time throughout the day,
All the time.
right? Many times. And one of the other things I like about those three movements though is that they incorporate so many different muscle groups just by using those three exercises, right?
Yeah, if you want to go bang for your buck, I mean, literally, if you want to go bang for the buck, if you just did a deadlift, bench, and squat,
Mhm.
you're hitting everything. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, there's going to be little things you have to address as you
yeah,
go down the line. I mean, we
mhm,
just don't want to do those three. We have to do some other stuff to help to balance ourselves out. But it's just the deadlift, the bang for your buck. Really, the squat. Really, I mean, really the squat. If the workout gods came down and said you only have one exercise to do,
yeah,
choose squats.
yeah.
I just choose squats. So that's the best for everything.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's why I believe in them so
Yeah,
vigorously. So, but it's bang for your buck. Yeah, you
mhm,
have the barbell on your back, but you got to engage. You got to pull
mhm,
your lats into it. You got to get your shoulders into it. You got to get your glutes into it. You got to get you got to brace your core. Right,
mhm,
you got to brace your spine, so your spine doesn't go all over the place.
mhm.
So you got to flex those and contract those abs. So really, it's a bang for your buck type movement. You get the most out of it.
Yeah,
If you want to substitute for functionality, if you want to substitute push-ups for the bench,
mhm.
weighted vests, push-ups for
Oh,
the
sure, yeah,
bench.
right, right.
Now you get that load if you want to get that load and just do
Mhm,
volume push-ups in terms of functionality because you have to stabilize your core in that plank motion
mhm.
through a full range of motion. I'll hear that. I'll
Yeah,
hear that, but once again, I don't like killing the sacred cow.
yeah.
You gotta, we're not doing bench press. Like, what are we doing here? I don't
Yeah,
know what to do with myself. I'm
yeah.
falling apart.
Yeah, I think those, I agree. I think especially the squat and the deadlift, the bench obviously, is like a pressing movement, which isn't as functional, but it still incorporates a lot of different muscle groups as well. And you could also, throw on the weight and overload your chest pretty quickly using a bench. And so let's talk about how you would incorporate these into a training program, or maybe use some examples from clients you've coached. So someone's starting out, and let's say they don't have a lot of time in the gym, right? And
That
we know that squat, deadlift, and bench are your best bang for your buck. And so if they want to focus on those three, how would they incorporate those into training?
um, so we got to determine how many days a week that we're getting them.
Mhm.
If I got somebody I can get 3 days a week, then I can hit all three lifts, so to
Yeah.
speak, if I really wanted to in the same day,
Mhm.
and just cycle through strength, power, hypertrophy.
Mhm.
I never can pronounce that word.
Hypertrophy, yeah.
Thank you, hypertrophy. So
Hypertrophy.
you can hit a different one every cycle Monday if we're going Monday,
Mhm.
Wednesday, Friday. So power would be like would be your deadlift, and
Mhm.
then your strength would be your bench, and then hypertrophy would be your squats, and then cycle through
Okay.
those three. So you're working different parameters, so that way you're just not heavy squat, heavy deadlift, light
Right,
bench. That's
right.
not a good look.
Yeah.
So at least you're cycling through those and you work your percentages in terms of what's appropriate for the rep range that you're
Right,
using.
right, right.
So if somebody wanted to do that, like if I get them 3 days a week and they had literally 35, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, that's pushing it a little bit. You can do like a deadlift bench, deadlift heavy, light bench
Mhm.
on a Monday. You can do a light bench or a heavy bench, light squat
Mhm.
on a Wednesday, and then you can do a heavy squat and a light deadlift if you really
Right.
wanted to, and then you can get those three in there depending on the
Yeah.
time that you have.
Yeah.
So really kind of how many days we're getting it. Obviously, the less days that I can get a hold of somebody, it becomes a little more complicated.
Mhm.
Once again, if you're going to get rid of anything, I'd get rid of the bench.
Mhm.
If I had somebody 2 days a week, I'd be like, all right, well, then we're
Yeah.
going to go, we're going to go heavy deadlift, light squat, then heavy squat,
Yeah.
light deadlift, and
Yeah.
do some push-ups and pull-ups. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great I think, when I talk to people who are really, really busy and they don't have a lot of time, I try to make sure they focus on those 3 exercises because, again, best bang for your buck. And, I also do the same thing. I say 30 you have 35 minutes 3 times a week. Well, guess what we're gonna be doing, right? Those 3 things because that's all the time you have. That'll get you a pretty good workout just focusing on those 3 movements, right? Just even if you have 30 to 35 minutes.
Yeah, once again, it's a bang for a buck because they incorporate everything.
Yeah.
You're getting everything involved. Now, if you have time afterwards to start working on some things to help
Mhm.
build those lifts,
Right.
that's certainly what we do here at our gym. So if we're running a class, we have classes that are the big 3. So
Mhm.
we'll deadlift on Monday, bench on Wednesday,
Mhm.
and squat on Friday. So we'll spend the first 20 minutes on just the main lift, the
Mhm.
deadlift, bench, or the squat. And not just, okay, we're going to barbell deadlift.
Yeah.
We'll barbell deadlift, we'll band deadlift, we'll off of RX pads, we'll
Mhm.
kettlebell deadlift, 1,000 different versions of a
Right,
deadlift
right.
before we come back to that heavy straight barbell deadlift.
Yeah.
And that's same with the bench and same with the squat. So we'll do that first 20 minutes of
Mhm.
working on that main lift and working different parameters in there. And then we'll spend the last 30 minutes working on some of our deficiencies. So we'll do a lot of
Okay.
rowing. We'll do a
Okay.
lot of rowing. We'll do some hamstring work. We'll do some calf work. We'll do some glute work. We'll do RDLs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
just to kind
Yeah.
to help build that individual lift on that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That way, it makes the lift stronger.
Yep. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some variations of the squat, bench, and deadlift. So, for your clients that you have, what are some variations? Let's focus on I don't know, I guess the deadlift, right? What are some very popular variations of deadlift that you like to use?
So it depends on what you have available to you, obviously. So I'll barbell deadlift.
Mhm.
And I'll figure out what's comfortable for them, either the
Mhm.
conventional or the sumo,
Okay.
depending on their hip mobility and what they have going on.
Mhm.
You can do both and train both, but I kind of under the belief like if you're a great sumo deadlifter and
Stick to that.
yeah, just stick to
Yeah.
it. Just
Yeah.
stick to
Yeah.
it. Why not? So there's a couple different ways. If you just have a barbell,
I'm gonna stop you right there and ask you a question that
yeah.
that pops up every once in a while. Is there with sumo versus conventional? Is there in your opinion, right? Is there one that's better than the other, or is it just based on how that person's body moves?
I sumo.
Okay.
I sumo because the way my body's built, like the conventional deadlifts, I can't get my legs out away from me.
Okay.
I just
Right.
I just can't drive. I can't drive as hard. So I sumo so I can increase my get my hands in and get
Hmm.
sinks deeper into the pocket so I can pull.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's the intellectuals that go there and argue that sumo's
Hmm.
not a deadlift.
Yeah.
Um, I leave them. That's just sitting by the campfire drinking a beer, going,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Like what are we talking about here? So I'm a firm believer of like just do what you can do
Yeah.
and figure and stick with that. I understand like why everybody says conventional is the true deadlift
Yeah.
because the distances can be greater.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
As a sumo, you can
Yeah.
get closer to the ground. You're not moving it as far. I contend if I'm moving 800 to 1,000 pounds, I don't care how I get
Yeah. Yeah.
it's up. It's
Yeah. It's up.
good.
Yeah.
But there's a little more hip, and you get a little more of your hip flexors involved when you're sumoing, just
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
stance, and
Yeah.
there's ones that are a little more quad dominant than glute dominant. But deadlift's a deadlift. Knock it off.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask, I don't want people to be deterred that they have to do conventional or have to do sumo, right? It's like you
Right.
said, you use sumo, and that's how your body moves. And so, again, you brought up a really good point: is how does your body move, and stick to that. If someone tells you you're wrong, well, how does your body move best, and stick to that.
Right. Like you want the functionality, you want safety and technique, and then the functionality of it. There's people who argue that the trap bar is not a deadlift. I use a trap bar for a deadlift.
Yeah, Yeah.
I'll use a trap bar for a deadlift. So, one of the various ways we can deadlift. To going back to your original, like you have to, what do you have available to you? So we have RX pads, we have barbells, we have bands, that we can adjust those things. So I throw all that in there. I literally throw all that in there. It's pretty rare that I go a deadlift with just a straight barbell deadlift, and then the
Yeah.
next week go straight barbell deadlift.
Right.
We
Right.
might be using the barbell again, but we might be using it differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That whole muscle confusion thing, there's some merit to that. We just don't want to be just random to be random, right? That means nothing.
Right.
But we
Right.
can be random in the world that we're creating in order to elicit a response
Right.
from the
Right.
body.
Right.
So you can use
Right.
chains if you want to use chains if you got chains available to you.
Oh yeah.
If you,
Yeah.
yeah, anything. If you wanted to bare bones, with just the deadlift, 5x5s, and every week increase your weight.
Mhm. Yeah. So
Until
break
you
that down. What are break down 5x5s for someone that just wants to start off and do bench squat deadlift? What are 5x5s? How can they incorporate those?
5x5s is 5 sets of 5 reps. 5 sets of 5 reps. And because we're using the 5 reps, we should be going heavy. Heavy's relative, but generally speaking, it's about 75, 80% ish. You can get to the 85, 90%, but you're putting some load on the bar. So
Right.
5x5 is you're going to do your 1 set of 5. You're going to do 5. And we're not slamming the weight off the ground and picking it up. But we're going all the way up, put the bar down, regrip, reset, stand up, put the bar down. So it's a true deadlift, and we're not slamming the bar off the ground and using momentum.
Right.
So you'll do your 5 reps, and then you'll take a 2 to 3 minute break.
Mm-hmm.
You want to feel strong going into it, like the traditional power sense.
Mm-hmm.
You want to feel strong going into it, so you take your break on your 5x5. So you would do 5 sets of 5, which should take you about 15 minutes, depending. So you do your 5x5 that way. So that way we're still loading the system where we're building strength. It's not bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is a totally different parameter.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with bodybuilding. There's nothing wrong with just powerlifting. It's just we do things differently.
Right.
So, if you wanted to stay 5x5s, that's kind of the traditional power sense. You'll see some guys doing 10x1s, 10 sets of 1 rep. So they'll build up the first 5. They'll do a couple 5x5s, and they'll keep on adding weight. And then the last 5 sets of the 10x1s, they'll be doing, really, really, really heavy in just 1 set or 1 rep.
Right.
So, the 5x5s kind of seems to be the wheelhouse of what you're doing, where you're not loading the system too gnarly, but you can still get some strength gains.
Yeah, and I think that it said 15 minutes, so that leaves you 15 more minutes to do something else, right? And so that's you got plenty of time to incorporate other types of movements or training on those days. If you're 15 minutes 5x5, that'll get you pretty burnt out. If you're lifting heavy, right? You got to lift heavy.
Yes.
And you have 15 more minutes to do something else.
Yes. You should feel after the 5x5 like, whoo. Or after their 5 reps, you go, whoo, I need to sit down for a second. You need to take that 2 to 3 minutes. If you get that 2 to 3 minutes break, and I'm very serious about the 2 to 3 minutes. If you feel after a minute you feel good, either take another minute or you're not lifting heavy enough.
Right.
But if you want to go, like I said, the classic sense of 5x5 and then systematically add weight every week.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start getting up to your 100% of what you can, back off the volume.
Yeah.
And keep the weight if you want to get a little sophisticated. But you can just do 5x5s and just smash the 5x5s, and every week go up 5 or 10 pounds depending on what you can handle.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot done that way.
Yeah. So someone has 30 minutes 3 times a week, they could just do squat, bench, deadlifts, 5x5s 3 times a week. That's a great place to start in terms of just getting active, moving, strength training, and then build on from there, right? Maybe do 4 days a week or 5 days a week.
Yeah, it depends on what you got available and the time you got, and be honest about it. If you can dedicate a half an hour 3 days a week, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
Which is not a lot. Let's be honest. if you want to do some mobility training to warm up,
Mhm.
as opposed to like, I'm here, 285, let's
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
which I've done.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, I have not always don't have the greatest dynamic warm up,
Mhm.
but if you got that half hour, you can spend 15 minutes working on that main lift,
Yeah.
and then that back end working on, like I said earlier, like working on some stuff to help that lift out.
Mhm.
You got okay, my shoulders roll pretty gnarly,
Mhm.
pretty bad on my deadlift, so I got to do a lot of rowing motion
Right.
to
Right.
strengthen up my back, so
Right.
that way I don't bend over
Yeah.
or roll my
Right.
roll my shoulders over. So you can do that for the next 15
Yeah.
minutes and have a great workout. Really
Yeah, and
get
the reason
going.
why I do keep going back 30 minutes, one of the barriers that people have or obstacles or excuses is that they don't have time, right? But what we've talked about, it doesn't take a lot of time to get active and get moving, right? If you can dedicate 30 minutes 3 days a week and be consistent with that, that's a fantastic way to start. And because it really does, you don't need much, right? If you're just looking for some general help, get back in the gym, start working out, start with strength training. It doesn't take, you don't spend an hour and a half or 2 hours in the gym, 5 days a week. If you don't have that time, you can just start off 30 minutes 3 times a week and then build on from there. Like that, the excuse of I don't have time or I can't find time, is just purely an excuse when, 30 minutes just focusing on those three movements is a great place to start.
Yeah, I don't have time. You just don't want to,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
and here's the thing, like that's fine.
Mhm.
You just don't want to. That's fine. Nobody's calling you a bad person.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying you're terrible and you shouldn't live. It's just you just don't want to, and
Yeah.
that's fine. Just be honest about it, and
Mhm.
be honest with what you're trying to do, and the time frame that you have. I can't tell you how many times people come in off the street and they've never, I haven't worked out in 8 years, and I'm going to be here at 5 in the morning, 5 days a week. It's like,
Yeah.
you might be. I don't want to say anything. You
Mhm.
might. You might have had enough, and you hit the line, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
But let's be. I'm going to be here for
Yeah.
an hour. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That
Yeah.
alarm goes off at 4 in the morning,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's that panic. Oh God,
Yeah.
I got to go there and do that. So, but you could, like you said, you can dedicate a half hour.
Mhm.
And if you want to get the most out of everything, you have 3 days a week. I have a half hour, or I have an hour. That's including the drive time to and from the gym.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
You're
an
right.
hour drive time too. Well,
No, I'm
that's
saying
large.
15 minutes there,
Oh,
15
okay.
minutes home. Yeah,
So,
sorry, an
yeah,
hour
yeah,
total,
that makes
including
sense.
the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like, you gotta find
Uh,
a closer gym.
right, yeah, right. Get out of the boondocks.
Yeah,
If you have a half hour, you can get a lot done
yeah,
with just those three lifts,
yeah,
3 days a week. You
yeah.
can get a lot done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. And
Yeah.
that's why I try to tell people and it doesn't take much, especially if you're just starting out. Just you gotta just be consistent with what just and, like, you brought up a good point, be realistic too, right? So, you can't if you may think you can start going to the gym 5 days a week for an hour and a half, 2 hours, but the reality is gonna hit you pretty hard, right? And so, as long
If
as
you
you're
don't have
just
a
on the
base,
yeah, as long as
if
you're
you
on a
don't have a
spot where
base.
where you can what you can actually do, that's the quickest way to discouragement if you set these lofty goals and then you kind of follow the bandwagon pretty quickly. But so, let's talk about your training program specifically. So for your training program, maybe you can break down maybe an example of what you have new clients do. Like, what do they do when they first start out working with you?
So I got to figure out what's going on with them.
Mhm.
So my quick assessment with them is an overhead squat with just like a PVC pipe or something like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to kind of
Yeah.
see what's going on with
Yeah.
them, just to see if anything's really glaring.
Hmm.
And then I'll do a push up with them.
Okay.
I don't care about the push up strength. I want to see where their
Right.
hips
Right.
go. I want to see if their hips dip, because then we have some core issues that we have to
Hmm.
worry about. And then I'll do a drop step where they, on a small step, they'll step off, because I want to see how they
Right.
land.
Okay.
Because if somebody knows how to squat, or they know what I'm looking for, they can lie to me. But if you do that drop step, you'll
Oh,
see the knees.
right.
You'll see the knees valgus,
Right. Right.
right? Or then you'll see the
Right.
knees cave. You go, I knew it. A lot of times, it's just people need to clean up their technique.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're not really imbalanced. Nobody's balanced perfectly. We're
Right.
all
Right.
imbalanced. Like,
Right.
oh, you have muscle imbalance, and I can fix this. Like, knock it off.
Hmm.
But you got to see what you're getting yourself into. And then if they're just fresh off the streets, I like to use, I like to figure out how their hips are moving.
Okay.
I want to teach them how to move their hips. I
Hmm.
want to teach them the difference between a hip hinge and a squat.
Hmm.
Those are two kind of basic things. Now, the bottom of the squat and the bottom of the deadlift, depending on how you deadlift, are the same thing.
Hmm.
Like in that world, like you can
Yeah.
tell me the bar placement, that's really changes everything.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure they got their hips moving. I want to make sure they know how to brace their spine.
Hmm.
Right. I want to make sure they're not rolling. I want to make sure they're not guarding their shoulder when they're doing
Right.
stuff. So I
Right.
start ticking off some of those things. If they got a basic idea how what's going on, I'll start with the kettlebell deadlift
Okay.
because I can get their mass over the weight.
Hmm.
So I can learn. So they can learn how to hip hinge down the bell, flex those lats, brace the spine, and stand up and get their hips all the way through.
Hmm.
So I'll start them there. Bench is a little easier. You can kind of like, let's go to bench.
Yeah.
Your elbows should be here. Don't shrug your shoulders.
Yeah.
Uh, um, Stuff like that. So I'll start them with the kettlebell deadlift, and if they can lift about 24 kilos, which is about 54 pounds. If they can do that fairly well, 5 to 10 reps, depending on the individual.
And plug for we talked about kettlebells in a previous episode, so go check that out
Yes,
and learn more about kettlebell training.
there we go. So I'll get them on the kettlebell, and then I'll get them on the trap bar. I
Okay.
know once again I said people don't consider the trap bar a deadlift. I'm
Yeah.
not going to get that. I'm not getting into that argument. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's easy. You can go kettlebell, trap bar, and then you can go to the bar.
Okay, so you work their way up to the bar, right? You don't have them start with the bar. You say kettlebell, trap bar, then bar.
Yes, and it depends on how, like, out of the gate, how well they're moving.
Right.
Some people
Right.
just
Right.
move really well. They
Yeah.
just understand how their hips work, so you can get them on the barbell fairly quickly.
Yeah.
But if somebody has no idea what they're doing and their hips are all over the place and they're just
Hmm.
a mess, I say lovingly, I'll start with that kettlebell, and I'll start light with that kettlebell.
Hmm.
Even distance. So some people don't even have the hip or ankle mobility to get all the way down to the floor.
True. Right.
Right. So I'll do an
Right.
elevated kettlebell deadlift,
Hmm.
and then I'll keep the weight the same, and I'll drop the distance
Hmm.
until they get off the floor. And when they can get off the floor, then I'll start adding weight to the kettlebell, and I'll do 2 hands, 1 bell, or 2 bells in each, or 1 bell in each hand type
Yeah.
thing. If they understand like how their torso moves and they don't roll their torso too badly, I'll use 1 kettlebell.
Yeah.
Just to kind of make it a little more interesting, so they don't walk it every time like kettlebell deadlift again. Okay,
Right.
just
Right.
to make it a little entertaining. And it works different parameters, but I'll kettlebell, and once they can get about 53 pounds
Mhm.
and do 5 of them, then I'll get them on the trap bar,
Okay.
right? Because that translates, because as opposed to getting their hands in front of them,
You're
they
right.
have their hands down by their side, and they can
Right.
still work on that hip drive. I know it's a little more quad dominant, but they
Mhm.
can still do that. And then I'll get them on the conventional, or the traditional barbell,
Yeah.
and figure out if they're a sumo or if they're a conventional deadlifter,
Mhm.
and then build off of that.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think it's very transferable to the general public too. If someone out there is hesitant about jumping on a barbell deadlift, they can kind of work their way up using what you just described, right? And
Mhm.
just focusing on kettlebells, and then the trap bar, and then the actual barbell deadlift, right? They don't have to jump right into heavy deadlifts. They can kind of work their way up if they have any sort of concerns about technique or movement. Obviously, if you have someone there helping you work on your technique, it's the best approach, right? But if someone's hesitant, they could easily just kind of work their way up to the barbell deadlift, right?
And concede to the fact that this is a lifetime.
Right,
We are
right,
building over a
right,
lifetime.
right,
There
right,
is no finish line.
right,
There's no
right,
finish line. Now, if you're going to a competition, obviously there's other parameters that
right.
yeah. But if you're just a general fitness person, like I just want to be healthier.
Hmm.
I just want to be healthier. I want to lose some weight, build some muscle,
Hmm.
be healthier. There is no finish line.
Right, right.
So start where you can start and build from there. Leave the
Yeah,
ego at the door.
yeah,
Nobody's looking at you.
yeah, 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 yeah.
They're all
Trust.
focused.
Yeah, promise. No one's looking at you.
They're all focused on what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're all focused on what's going on. So start where you need to start. and build from there. That's like the squat. I know, I used to work at a big box gym,
Yeah.
and a lot of people want to lift weights,
Mm-hmm.
but they get over, I call it Muscle Beach, but they get over to where all the guys and gals are lifting all these heavy weights and grunting and doing all this stuff. And like, there's 10 million pounds on the bar, and I got these 5-pound dumbbells, and I just can't seem to move them. And, start where you are and focus on what you're doing and focus on the technique, and you'll get there. You will get there. I would put the barbell on my back and squat and do all this other stuff. It's like, you're not a very good squatter, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You're just not a very good squatter.
Yeah.
We might have to address some mobility issues. Nobody ever taught you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people never taught. And once you teach them, they're like, oh, okay, you got a good squat. Very good.
Yeah.
So I'll start with goblet squats. Right?
Oh,
Let's get to goblet squats.
Yep.
Let's learn how to move those hips. Let's get your depth.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get you where you're going. And you can vary like the load on the goblet squats.
Yeah.
If we want to refer back to kettlebells, like single rack, one side, double side, goblet squat, you can do a lot of different things.
Right.
We can work on single leg squats.
Mm-hmm.
If you got it. You can work on some split squats, which is very transferable to all athletes, to everybody, because we walk one foot to the other
You're
foot,
right, yeah.
one foot to the other foot. So you can work on those little things without worrying about getting over to Muscle Beach and lifting and being scared of everybody.
Right.
And still get the benefits of the workout. So know where you are and try to figure that part out, and then build from that spot, because there is no finish line. Mm-hmm. Finish line is when your friends lower you into the ground.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm pretty sure heaven has a weight room. So, so just realize that this is a lot. Don't look at the small of it. Don't look at the short term. Look at the really long. It's a long game. Really, really long game. And if you're in it for life, be in it for life, and you'll be okay. Just start where you need to start.
Yeah, that could be a whole episode right there, just talking about mindset, right? Because people make that mistake of looking at the short term goals of, I want to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds, or I want to lift X amount of weight. But it's really you should be doing this, looking at it as a whole journey, a lifetime journey, right? Of you're just not going to do it this short little season of working out, then stop. You're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, right? When you look at years instead of weeks or months, kind of changes things, right? Because then you can kind of work your way up to certain things, and you don't feel so constrained with time. So I think that's a really great point. A lot of people miss or forget about it. It is a lifetime journey. That's how people should look at it.
If it's worth doing, it's worth doing for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah,
you'll hear if it's worth doing, it's worth doing every day, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Some people just don't have the capacity to. In programming, they don't have the programming. They don't have the program to be able to program something every single day.
Right.
So they have to stay that 3 days a week, like we talked about earlier. But if it's worth doing, it's worth doing for the rest of your life. If you want to play a musical instrument, you could play it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Not like you'll learn to strum some chords for the summer so I can meet some girls.
Yeah.
It's like, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing for the rest of your life. So look at it that way, just the long term aspect of it.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. So to wrap things up, we talked quite a bit about why bench, squat, and deadlift are really important and how to incorporate those into your training. And we gave some examples how to work your way up to deadlifts, and so you can do the same thing with bench or deadlift as well. Either any last minute points want to bring up, people interested in squat, bench, or deadlift?
Just generally take it slow. Leave your ego at the door.
Yes.
It's fine if you have no idea what you're doing. Find somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily the biggest guy at the gym or biggest gal at the gym. So it's fine to doing what they're doing. And if you want to come talk to me about it, you can go to my website, builtstrongstrengthclub.com. Yeah, we have. If you're competent in all those lifts, we have downloadable programs.
Okay.
So we take the programming out of your hands and you just go.
Yep.
You can message us. You can get a hold of me there or my wife there. We can talk more about what's going on and how we can address some of these issues and direct you kind of in a better
Yeah.
into a better direction, because we want to be successful. We don't
Mhm.
want to be that person who comes in for 2 months and be like, I'm just so
Yeah.
frustrated.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
don't feel like I'm getting anything done. So
Mhm.
yeah, you can certainly come talk to us and find us there if you want to, or any of our Instagrams, same Built Strong Strength.
Yep.
You can message us there, and we can help you out and kind of go down that road with you.
Yep. And I'll definitely put your contact information in the episode
Thank you.
notes when released, and the social media information as well. But Will, a great pleasure to have you on to talk about barbells. And like I said, if you're listening and or watching and you want to learn more about kettlebells, we did do kettlebell episode as well, so check that out. Want to make sure to plug that one. But Will, thank you again for coming on, and appreciate you having coming on again. Love to have you on in the future.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. You're doing good work.
Oh,
So
thank you.
thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Oh, of
Really,
course, of
it's
course.
it's an honor. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Think I've definitely learned some things as well. It's always a pleasure when you kind of, like I said, drop your ego and be a sponge and learn some things from other people.
That somebody knows something that you don't.
Exactly.
You just gotta find that person.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, and hope you have a good rest of the day.
You too. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good one.